We are back for another episode of Get a Load of This. From the Silver Creek Studios, sort of. I'm Jared.
I'm Ryan. I'm not with that asshole.
He is not in studio.
No, I'm in the middle of, not even the middle. I don't know where I'm at. I'm south of Jackson, Mississippi, doing 70 miles an hour on Highway 55, heading southbound and down.
And all things considered, you sound pretty good, I gotta say.
Yeah. Well, this is a good test. We've talked about it for a long time, doing something like this or having. Generally, the idea was to have other people dial in,
right.
us in the studio. But in light of things,
this is a self-quarantining episode.
That's right. Social distancing.
That's right.
But, arguably needed for many reasons other than coronavirus.
Yeah.
Jared's about to get a knuckle sandwich. Some of these episodes you may have caught on.
Ryan got pretty fired up at me last time, so I didn't even know if he wanted a podcast again. He said, I will if we can be several hundred miles apart.
How many miles away are we? Let's see. I'm about 472 miles away from you right now. So
it's close enough.
Yeah, so here's what's going on. So, I called Jared yesterday. I was like, hey, man, we didn't record anything this week, and I got a 10-hour drive to New Orleans because I got to get my dumbass child, who finally decided to come home. So I was like, I got 10 hours to kill. Let's see if we can do this remote thing, and we'll spit out an episode and see if it doesn't suck.
Yep.
So that's what's going on. That's what's shaking.
I think it's going to work. And you don't know. Maybe you do know. You're on the road. They just announced they're going to lock down the state of Illinois.
Oh, really?
Yep. So, like California and New York already, starting tomorrow, I think, they're going to have a press conference, I think, at 3:00 today. But yeah, it's going to be, what do they call it? Stay in place order. And
shelter in place.
Shelter in place, yeah. So it's going to be, you can get out to the grocery stores and doctor's office and things like that, but you can't. You're supposed to go straight there, straight home. I'm assuming that means all these restaurants that have been trying to do curbside pickup and everything, they're going to be shut down. So,
I don't know. I start to wonder if we're going too far, but I don't know. That counteracts. I'm counterintuitive to what I've said in the past too. So, bottom line is that I'm confused. I don't know. Nobody knows. So I guess we just trust the powers that be. I don't know if I trust J.D. Pritzker though any further than I can throw him.
Right.
I'm sure I couldn't throw that fat fuck very far. So
I don't necessarily trust him, and I think he seems to be this knee-jerk guy. He's just, he's going to shoot from the hip and just be like, "Oh, California shut down. We're going to shut down too." That kind of thing. Yeah. And it's like, well, did you really calculate out? Is that even going to help? Almost all the cases so far up in Chicago. So now you're shutting down the rest of your state when only like the top 20 miles of the state are really being.
But how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you police that? Are we doing martial law? Is the National Guard going to come in and be on my street to be like, hey, get back in your house? How the fuck are they going to, I don't know how they accomplish that.
Yeah, I did read, I can't remember if it was regarding Illinois or if it was New York, because New York just stated today they're doing the same thing. But I think they said they are going to enforce it. They're going to have fines and other penalties for businesses that stay open. So if they see some restaurant open or whatever, they're going to come in there and levy out a fine or whatever. I don't know, how much it'll be or how much they'll really enforce it. I don't know.
I guess whatever it takes to, what do they say, flatten the curve, right? That's the objective here. But I don't think people really understand what that means. But every time I hear flatten the curve, all I think about is the Dukes of Hazzard theme song. I don't know if anybody else has done that as well. But
I don't remember.
Straightening the hills, flattening the curves. That's not good. It's straightening the curves, flattening the hills. But that's all I think about. Every time I hear someone say flattening the curve, I think of the fucking Dukes of Hazzard theme song.
Well, now you got me humming it in my head.
Just the good old boys. Yeah, so the flattening the curve thing, though, what it really is proposing, I guess maybe I'm the only idiot that didn't pick up on this.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just never put it in the right context in my head, that basically they want to stretch this event out as long as possible, and the objective is to not stress the healthcare industry, right? So not to stress out the hospitals and the doctors, But that means that we're stretching this epidemic or pandemic out, which is obviously an enormous impact to the global economy. Yeah. We're going to make it even longer, which is even more detrimental to the global economy.
So, one of the perspectives seems to be a certain number of people are going to get this regardless, and it's just a matter of when. And if they all get it early, that's going to overflow the healthcare system. So, kind of like you're saying, if we stretch this out, then the healthcare system can manage it. That's assuming that a relatively same number of people are going to get it no matter what. Then, yes, stretch it out. But they're also saying, in that case, stretching it out until we've got a vaccination. And they're saying it could be a year until we have a vaccination. So it's like, Jesus, is that what we're talking about? We're going to all hunker down for a year?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it sounded like. If it doesn't get better, if we don't see like a marked improvement, but then you got the Chinese saying that they got no new cases and they're starting to kind of loosen the reins.
Yeah, but how do we believe anything the Chinese say?
I'm telling you, what the shit you see on the highway in Mississippi, there are some
what are you seeing?
I just drove by a dude on a motorcycle that, I don't know, man, he was a couple of chromosomes short of a full deck. It was a weird deal. He didn't look right. I wouldn't let him in my house, let's put it that way. I don't think I was not feeling good about him being next to my truck, honestly, going 80 miles an hour, breaking the law here. But anyway,
so tell us what you're doing. You're going down to New Orleans.
Going to New Orleans. Probably not one of the best decisions of my life. I would have preferred to do this about a week ago or 10 days ago. I had a long conversation with my son about, hey man, they're shutting the school down. It's time to pack it up and head home. And he balked at that idea. He wanted to stay with his buddies, and his girlfriend was staying down there. And he just wasn't taking it seriously. Like a lot of these Gen Z assholes that are out there at spring break doing fucking body shots, drinking a shot of Jaeger out of some girl's dirty asshole, thinking that they're not going to catch something. If you don't catch corona, you're going to get at least pink eye, probably. So, anyway.
Is that what they're doing these days? Jeez.
I don't know. I did see one video where they were drinking, like, I don't know, it's another story for another day. People should share a link to Twitter to the video. You probably know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so yeah, he wanted to hang out with his bros. And he had some other constraints because he's an ROTC that they were going to require him to come back. Right. So I was like, but yeah, man, this is getting serious. That's all going to change. We should just plan on it. And he kept pushing back and pushing back and pushing back. Well, so finally, everything that I have said for the past 10 days came to fruition, I guess Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning. And all of his friends, including his girlfriend, bolted home. So he went from one day being, I'm staying here with my buddies and we're not going down without a fight, to, hi, motherfuckers, I'm here. And so now he calls me. He's like, so, can you come and get me? And I'm like, man, I wish I could say no because, screw you, man. You had a chance 10 days ago. Now, number one, you've been down here farting around doing God knows what, not social distancing, catching this shit from whoever you've come in contact with. And now I'm going to bring you home to my house, so you can infect my wife and my kids, and come on, man. So
now are you moving him out? Are you getting his stuff too?
Yeah. Everything packing up. He's got some stuff he's going to leave down here. He's got a couple of friends that have houses. Yeah, they store some stuff. Like he's got a little small fridge and what else has he got? He's got a sofa, like a futon, that he's storing down here. So what we're getting is basically his clothes and his Keurig and his Xbox and a beer pong table, I think. That's the extent of it. Yeah. I think so, at least.
Now, is he still doing online classes and stuff? Is he still responsible for grades and everything?
Yeah, for Tulane, they gave him this week off. So last Thursday, I guess it was, they're like, yeah, we're going to give you the next week off, and we're giving you that off so that you can get the fuck out of Dodge. Yeah. Go home. Right. And that's when I said, let's go. And he said, no, I'm going to jump. Oh my God, it's so aggravating. I could go on and bitch about him. But I'm trying to get over it. I'm trying to get happy about it because I was really fucking pissed at him for a couple of days. So yeah, they gave him this week off to from schoolwork to get home, and then I think tomorrow or Monday they do start the remote classes or whatever you call it. E-learning, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, as of Monday he'll be back in class until spring break, which I think they're still giving him spring break, which is in April 10th or something like that. So then they have a week off for spring break. And this little shit still thinks he's going to Atlanta, Georgia to party with his buddies in some mountain cabin or some shit in April. And I'm like, you know what? If they're locking down the state of Illinois, they're probably going to lock down the state of Louisiana too.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere, man. No one's going anywhere. And you know, these kids, they think that they're invincible. We talked about this last time.
Mm-hmm.
These people that think that they can't get it, they're the ones that are invincible from everything, and it's just foolish. I mean, even if you can't, or not if you can't, everybody can get it. I think that's been pretty widely reported.
Mm-hmm.
Even kids can get it. It's not going to be as severe because they usually have a healthier immune system, but they can still get it. So, but you don't want to spread it. So you should just do everything that they're telling us to do for the greater good, and that's what these kids ain't getting. It's really
Well, a couple of things on that. So one, I am hearing more reports today that younger people are getting it, 20s to 30s to or 20s to 40s, are not just getting it, but are being hospitalized. Now maybe they're recovering, but they're on a ventilator in a hospital, and I think that's the other thing too, is everybody our age and younger just thinks, whatever, I'm going to get a cough and maybe a fever and then it'll go away. This is only affecting old people. It's like, well, no, it's only killing old people, but it's still hospitalizing other people. And as that becomes more and more of a thing, that's where it's like, hey, you're in backwoods Louisiana. Guess what? Our local hospital has 2 ventilators. So good luck, And that's where this whole attitude, and to be honest, I don't even remember what all we've talked about on this podcast, but my attitude on it has changed. I was very much like, we're overreacting. We're taking it too far. It's only a little bit worse than the flu. And now it's kind of like, well, once you start doing the math, looking at the numbers of like, this is how it's going to get overloaded. It's like, well, maybe this is the right move. It doesn't feel like it because we're crippling our economy and we're literally putting people out of a job. But I don't know. Yeah,
it's a crazy time. But, so here's what we got 2 options I think we can go down here. Mm-hmm. I've been thinking about a lot of, and I don't think any of these are true. They're just things that rattle around in my brain. Mm-hmm. Conspiracy theories around the coronavirus, like why. If there was a plant, or if it was, released by the government, whether the Chinese or the U.S. government, so we can go down that path, or what the media might be doing that also could be considered conspiracy theory. So we can talk about that, or we can give Corona a break. I don't know, what else you want to talk about? We could talk about things that you do on a road trip, because that's what I'm doing right now. I don't know, but the conspiracy theory thing, I don't know, it's a pretty good one. So you want to...
Yeah,
do you have any ideas in your head? Why there might? I mean, I know we're gonna everything with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. I think we need to qualify. Like, I don't believe any of this. I think it's real. I think there's real concern. I don't think the government of China or the U.S. is doing anything nefarious here. But I've certainly thought about it.
Yeah. So I will also put that stipulation out there. I don't necessarily believe these conspiracy theories. I'm also not entirely I don't know, let's put it this way. In the business that I'm in, working with security and classifications and things like that, we are told a lot about what China specifically is doing to try to get information on us and and attack us and whatever, right? Not necessarily warfare, but what are things that they're doing. So I'm less doubtful about any kind of ulterior motives on China's part because I see other things that they do. But so that being said, if we find out at some point that this was created in a lab as a potential bioweapon or something, I won't be shocked at all. I mean, I assume they're doing that. We're doing that. All kinds of countries are trying to find ways to develop viruses that they can control and put out against.
Well, but even if the fact that the scientific community is pretty roundly came out and said, no, this is natural. It's not created in a lab. It's too elaborate to be able to do. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible that, yes, it's a naturally occurring thing that we somehow eradicated previously that maybe nobody knew about. It was found in a monkey's ass or something like that, and it's been in a lab, and then maybe they did release it into the population.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Maybe we found this naturally occurring virus and we duplicated it or something. I don't know. I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just saying if that was to come out, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, can you believe it? I'd just be like, oh, yeah, that explains it. But that being said, I don't necessarily think that's what's going on.
Right.
But
at this
some
point,
people
I think you got to believe the scientific community and that this is a naturally occurring thing. This is whatever, intelligent design, Mother Nature, if it's just whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But so then my mind goes like, well, why would the government do this, right? So we can talk about China, but I think we know they're our enemy.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of reasons to harm us, whether they're economic reasons or they just want to kill Americans. Whatever. That one is not as fun to think about as if the U.S. government, it's like 9/11 was an inside job kind of thing, because I've had theories, and they're not mine.
Mm-hmm.
Other people have had theories like about Katrina, that somehow the HARP array in Alaska, where there's allegedly the U.S. government can control the weather, so we can actually direct hurricanes and tornadic activity, and that we were somehow able to create a hurricane in the Gulf, Katrina, and we directed it, the government nefariously directed it towards New Orleans, and with the intent to kill people. And then also the breaching of the levee that occurred after the flooding, which did kill people after post Katrina. So with that kind of thing in mind, it's like, okay, well, why would this virus be released by the U.S. government? What would be their end game? Yeah. And I thought, well, some people would argue that the older population of the country and the world is the baby boomers is a drain on our economy and our healthcare system.
Right.
So maybe there's some New World Order asshole out there who's like, well, we could just kill about 30% of them pretty quickly. What do you think about this? And they're like, yeah, let's do that, because we're safe, we're in our bunker, and off they go. And the aim of this is just to thin that elderly herd, because they want. There's a lot of people that argue for population control and population reduction. Legitimate people out there making the argument like, we need people to die. We need to, they're not good people, but they're real people who have these firmly held beliefs that we need to thin the herd and only the strong survive. And it's crazy talk, but it's not outside of the realm of possibility. So that's just one reason why the government might do something that crazy is to thin out the elderly herd. And also, it could. This virus impacts not just the older folks, but people that are immunocompromised, right? So that means crackheads. That means drug abusers that have they're a mess, right? Also the diabetics, anybody with existing severe health conditions. So it impacts those more greatly too. And those folks are also, or could be by bad people, considered to be a drain or a burden on the healthcare system. So maybe there's some bad people out there that think that. I don't know. I don't think that's the case.
No, but I've heard that as a theory. Yeah, this is a way to eliminate some of the burden on society. And, I don't necessarily agree with that, but it's just as plausible as some other ideas. I have heard, and I don't really know if I haven't dived into this, but just as a use of control, right? We always think the government's going to do something to try to control its people more, to give up their rights. Right. I don't know how much of that is going on. Obviously they're locking down and quarantining stuff, but are we being told to give up any rights that I'm not thinking of offhand?
That's a perfect segue to my other theory. Okay. That it revolves around Trump being the bad guy, which a lot of people would buy into that pretty easily. And I don't know the ins and outs of this and what the laws are, but he's already invoked some war powers, which basically gives the executive branch more power to distribute funds, and so there's those kinds of things are happening. Congress is already invoking some things, right? So that they can distribute money to people that are almost definitely going to be impacted by this, and that's the argument. Same with the 9/11 stuff. The Patriot Act was was put out there. We thought it was a good idea because we were being reactionary to what had just happened to us. But what it did is it gave the government, because nobody read the damn thing, it gave the government a large amount of control over us and the ability to spy on us without our consent, really.
Yeah.
And so in hindsight, we're like, oh fuck, that we gave up something there.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be very cautious of what things are being passed in Congress and make sure that whatever is being passed has a limit on it.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a date limit, it has to be renewed every 6 months or a year or
mm-hmm.
whatever. That we need to be very careful that those things exist. So yeah, I mean, I think we very like it could be, and we don't even know it.
Yeah.
But I also think that Trump, if he is the evildoer, as all say, that he's doing this on purpose, marching us towards martial law, so that he can say, you know what, we can't hold an election during this time of crisis. I'm calling off. I don't know if he can do that or not, but I'm calling off the election. And I'm going to be the president until we get ourselves through this.
Oh, interesting.
Which would throw the country into a civil war, and it would be ridiculous.
Right.
But it's a theory, They're all a theory.
One of the things that they announced today, maybe they did yesterday too, but they had it in a press conference today. They're closing the border to North and South, Canada and Mexico, to anything except essential, travel. But they're basically not letting anybody in, and they've already done that with air travel and things like that from Europe. So I could see that being one of those things that, just doesn't go away later, or they loosen those restrictions, but not as much as it is now, that kind of thing.
Right.
And that is definitely an effective way. Like if the Republicans thought we needed to shut this border down, well, this is one way to do it and get everybody to go along with it.
One way to do it. It's dirty. I mean, it's not,
right.
There's a lot of blowback, but it's a way to get it done, I guess. But,
yeah.
Because you're right. I mean, the whole border conversation has been xenophobia and racism,
mm-hmm.
and Trump's a bad person. Well, this makes that argument like ironclad. Yep, we need to shut it down for this specific reason, because we need to know who's here and who's not. I said that on the last one. We need to know. That's just the bottom line.
Right.
We need to be a sovereign nation and have secure borders and know who's in our midst, just like your house.
Mm-hmm.
You don't open the door for anybody and just let anybody walk through, And every country should do that. Every single country should do that.
I do think, back to what you were saying, I do think the kind of executive powers that Trump has declared with the, what is it called? The Defense Act or whatever.
Yeah, something like that, yep.
Yeah. To me, that's the way that something's going to sneak through. It's some powers that he's granted himself now that, and by the way, I can do this and this that never comes up in this situation, but I can also do it in that situation that nobody's talking about. And that's not going away, that kind of thing. It's going to sneak up on us.
Yeah, well, I know that, and this is going to sound one-sided. I haven't heard of Trump adding anything like that in, but who knows? I mean, I haven't read the damn thing, but I have read some stories about Pelosi and the Democrats trying to sneak in some stuff about, I guess it was, what was it, paid leave. They wanted it like in perpetuity, that you get,
right.
Not this, like, it wasn't just an emergency act where you're going to get 14 or, a month's worth of paid leave,
right.
As a requirement. It was going to be forever. And it was like, so, and I think that was the reason why it was held up to begin with, because Trump was like, no. We're not being advantageous here.
Mm-hmm.
We're focused on solving this problem and approaching this issue. We're not looking to push our agenda forward, whether you're wearing a blue tie or a red tie. Mm-hmm. Let's just focus on the fucking problem here. Let's not try to play these fucking games. But that's typically what I think both of them do to some degree, both
mm-hmm.
the left and the right do. But it certainly seems like the left does it a little bit more, where they use the whole Saul Alinsky deal, the never let a crisis go to waste,
right.
principle. That,
right.
And we've seen it. We've seen it over and over and over again where they've done that. There's an argument to be made for that's what the media, who's clearly, most of the media is clearly
mm-hmm.
on the left side of the spectrum, that they're taking this crisis and pushing it and pushing everybody to a fevered pitch that, we have to trust them. We don't have any other choice
right.
but to trust what we're hearing. But it wouldn't be too crazy to think that they're doing it to make Trump look bad,
mm-hmm.
just to win the election, that in reality, this.
Still there? We might have lost Ryan. I'm going to pull up Skype again. I got the Skype call. All right. I'm going to pause this here and see if we can get him back.
All right.
Okay. We lost you there. You're back. You sounding good. We're going to keep going.
Yeah. The downside of mobile, I guess. It's not perfect.
Well,
so I don't know where I got.
I was going to interrupt you in a minute anyway. On the press conference that the president had today. So, every day they're doing this update on the virus, and, he's got his little team of people who talks. I don't know if you've seen that yet or whatever, but
yeah.
Anyway, so today I listened to it on the radio, and you should have heard how these reporters are trying to trap him into. So there's two main, or one main narrative to this is that Trump didn't do enough early on to prepare us for this, right? So everybody's blaming him.
Right.
And one of the ways now where they're trying to trap him into that, or at least, show evidence of that, is that there's not enough testing, right? We don't have enough tests out there. The ones that we have, we can't get to the people who need them, right? So testing. That's this big thing that they're trying to push. So they're asking him all about it. And he's trying to say, we're ramping it up every day. He's got people on his staff who are speaking for him saying, yep, every hour we're getting more and more tests. We're getting them to the people that need them and blah, blah, blah. So these media keep harping on it and keep trying to get him to admit fault or something about how there aren't enough tests. Well, why aren't there enough tests? Well, you didn't do enough soon enough, right? And it's not reporting. And he finally called him out on it. He's like, Frank, whoever it was, you're a terrible reporter. And he's just like starts laying into this reporter about you're not doing your job and blah, blah, blah. Fake news. He's like, you're sensationalizing. You're just trying to cause panic. I'm up here trying to just state what's going on, and you're trying to sensationalize. And he is. These reporters are all just sensationalizing and trying to get him to say something bad that they can write down. And he's not falling for it, and he's calling them on it. It was actually really great. But one of the things was they were also trying to say, what do you say to the families at home with kids who are scared? What do you tell those people? It's like, what do you want him to say? What the fuck are you asking here? Like, he's trying to just tell people to, hunker down. We're all going to get through this. Let's work together. We're doing great. Right. Blah, 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 blah. What do you want him to say? I'm so sorry. You should all panic right now. Like, it's fucking ridiculous, the types of questions they ask.
It is. And it's, it's crazy times. And the fact that, like I said on the last one, that they're trying to make this a Trump thing in the first place is like, come on, people. I mean, that there's not much this dude could have done.
Right.
It's just unreasonable to think that it's in any way his responsibility. Excuse me. This whole thing's his fault. So
now I will say, I'm sure early on when he was being fairly flippant with it, and it's like, oh, we've got this. It's fine. This is all going to go away. I'm sure more could have been done at that point. But also at that point, a lot of people were talking that way, and a lot of people didn't know how bad this was going to get. And in fact, there's documentation of China and the World Health Organization telling us this can't be spread from person to person. It's only being picked up by a few people who are getting it from an animal or blah, blah, blah. So, of course, he's telling us it's no big deal. It's not going to make it over here, because that's what he was told by the World Health Organization, who, by the way, everyone else is telling us that's who we should be trusting on this. Well, guess what? That he trusted them early on. And, what's he supposed to do? The other thing that really pisses me off about the media, there's these stories going around that Trump canceled funding the CDC. He pulled back hundreds of millions of dollars and was going to cripple the CDC and specifically their pandemic preparation division or whatever. So exactly this kind of thing. And he did that as recently as last year, and now we're all paying for it. And I was like, Jesus, that's kind of weird of him to just cripple the CDC, and B, if that's true, man, this doesn't look good for him. So I start researching it, and of course, it's not true. But there's multiple news entities reporting it. At least one senator, I believe, if not two or three, that are quoting these reports and saying this about him publicly. And as it turns out, here's the story. So in 2014, I believe there was an Ebola outbreak.
Right.
And under the Obama administration, the U.S. and the CDC enacted a 5-year, one-time lump sum of money. I forget. I'm just going to throw a number out there. $500 million. It was a lot, something like that. And it was to go boost up and help in, I think, instead of 10 countries that they were working in, it was like 47 countries. Something like that. They were just going to like ramp up their assistance in pandemic stuff for this one specific outbreak. And again, it was from the beginning, it was like, this is a one-time thing. It's going to expire in 2019, and we'll see at that point, you know? So the story was that Trump was pulling funding and, you know, getting rid of all this stuff at the CDC. Well, he wasn't doing anything. It was scheduled to go away all along. Now,
and he just didn't renew it. Probably.
Well, here's the thing. He did renew it. It never went away. The CDC not only got the same funding they had, they got more funding. They're now working in more countries than they were before. And the people were saying, oh, Trump was warned that if he pulls this funding, it's going to, you know, limit our ability to handle a pandemic. Well, he was, and that's why he continued funding it. And I don't know if he did anything. It might have all come from Congress or some board or whatever. Right. I don't know, but the point is, it didn't go away, and if anything, it was actually boosted higher than it was during that 5-year term. So it's like, but that's a story that went spread everywhere. How Trump is responsible for this because this one thing. Oh, and by the way, he didn't do this. Oh, and by the way, he didn't do that. Well, it's like, that's not true.
So what boggles the mind? Yeah, and nobody gives a shit. And even if, well, I think I'm going to answer my own question.
Mm-hmm.
What boggles my mind is that why doesn't he or his press secretary or someone stand up at that lectern and say, look, this is exactly what happened. Are you paying attention? Are you listening? I'm not taking questions now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody get your pencils out. This is what happened. Start recording. And exactly lay out that.
Yeah.
This was coming due. Obama started it. I renewed it. Nothing got lost. Yada, 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 all that stuff. And say, are we clear? Now, and let people shoot questions at him then and say, look, this is the facts. This is what happened. And I think the reason why that doesn't happen is, A, they don't want to acknowledge the bullshit. They just want to act like, you know, as soon as they acknowledge it, then the media's won, and they'll just keep, and they've already won. They keep throwing, you know, crap like this at them left and right. But also, there's probably something that they didn't do perfectly.
Right.
That if they were to say like, well, we did do this, we did do that, that they're going to be challenged and they're going to have to admit that something did get lost, or that they did do something that could have negative impact. You know, I might be too loud now too because I picked up the phone in order to hear you.
No,
so
it sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, why don't they just explain this stuff and then there'd be no confusion over it? I've said that I feel like a lot of the reason why, just today on my way home from work, I actually went into work today. I've been working from home, but I had to go pick up some stuff. So I left around 11 or whatever. And on my way out, this woman who works there, I said something like, yeah, I'm heading home. And I said, you know, I don't want to alarm you or anything, but there's rumors that they're going to shut down the state, which about an hour later, they announced they're going to. And she kind of rolls her eyes and goes, it's just the fucking flu. And
well, she's a moron.
I know. I kind of looked at her. I was like, it's more than the flu, but you know, I don't want to get into it. But it's like, okay, there's plenty of people like her, and they're the ones going to spring break, and they're the ones going out to restaurants and shit and still partying with their families. It's like nobody has sat down and said, here in a big press conference, this is why we're doing this. These are the numbers. This is, and here's the experts predicting it's going to spread to this many people, and this many are going to die, and that's going to go here. If we do nothing, here's the model. And if we do a little bit, here's that model. And if we do what we're doing, this is what we hope to accomplish. And I feel like that hasn't really been announced. It's out there. You can find that information, but like the masses don't know that. And that's why there's still people just kind of going, whatever, it's the flu, it's only affecting old people. It's like, they need to fucking explain this shit and get everybody on board.
not long ago, we were kind of the same, had the same feeling. So, I mean, I called her a moron, but I mean, I think at this point, if you still believe that, you're turning a blind eye to information. You're just not, you're not intelligent enough to go seek out additional information, and you're just saying, you're dismissive of it, which is foolish at this point. I was flipping through the channels, and there was it was late. I think it was last night, maybe it was the night before, but anyway, it was Jimmy Fallon, and I was like, are they still doing shows? I know there was a second there they were talking about doing like audience-less shows. Anyway, so I turned it on, and there was an audience, full room, and I forget who the guest was. It was some the heavyset gal from Saturday Night Live. I don't know her name, but one of the lesser known cast members. But I think she's pretty funny though. Anyway, so she was a guest, and so I'm like, and I'm seeing all these people, and I'm like, there's no way this happened in the past couple of days, and it was from the 9th of March. So still, the 9th of March, shit was getting real, and they did talk about it a little bit, but they, like, even Jimmy and the guests, they were kind of dismissive of it, and weren't acting like it's a big deal. And I'm like, man, none of this stuff is going to age well. All these people that are so quick to call someone a moron. You're in the media. I'm sure there's tweets out there. There's an Instagram post of you saying like, this is all going to blow over. For our dumbasses, there's a couple of podcast episodes where we're going, this is nothing. And they didn't age well, and we look stupid. But, such is life, I mean. Well,
it all changed pretty quick. I mean, I will admit that. And, my perspective has changed. I think yours probably has. I'm not fully on board with we should all be panicking and we should all be hunkered down and don't leave your house. I mean, I kind of think that, but I guess my thing is I know there's obviously a lot of harm that's being done right now, economically, financially, socially. There's a lot of issues that are going to pop up because of the way we're handling this. And it's just a matter of like, is that better than however many people would die? I guess. I don't know, So
yeah, I mean, there was fine, right? That was one of the questions talking about that Dave Rubin podcast where they talked about that question, like where do we, when there's a financial cost or a human life cost, like where's that balance, right? And I think that's a very difficult question. But I mean, if you use the analogy of the military or police or even the medical industry, like how much money do we spend on body armor for our military? Well, there's a limit, right? There's a point where we stop spending money and we say, okay, well, they have to take some risk, We can't cover them in head to toe body armor. There's some risk involved. So there's whether it's a financial limit or actual physical limit, we have to stop at some point. The same thing applies here. It's like yes, there's a financial cost at some point, and I think we're there, and that's why the government is looking at quantitative easing, and they're looking at freeing up cash and bringing the interest rates to all the way to zero and possibly negative interest rates. There's all these measures that are being taken to make sure that the economy at least limps through this and hopefully comes back roaring like a lion or a bull at the end of the day. So speaking of that, did you ever look up the Dow, what it's doing right now?
No, I started to, and then hold on, let me pull it up. Where do you want me to go? You said a specific site.
Just go to Google and type in the DJIA, and then should bring up the quote. Suspense. Of course, everybody already knows. Listening to it day later or whatever.
It is currently at 19,407, and it is down 679 from whatever point.
Yeah, but damn, man. I mean, I'm telling you what. If you were, and this is by no means financial advice, but if you were a risk taker, if you were a gambler, you could go out there and buy some options on the index and just play these swings up and down. I mean, it's almost, at this point, it looks like every other day, you pretty much know which way it's going to go. It's a pretty easy trend to follow. It's a roller coaster, but it's also fucking aggravating and terrifying because, every time we take the next dip in the roller coaster, it seems like we go just a little bit lower. Right. And, majority of Americans, if you have a 401k or even if you just have some small investments, you've lost a third of your investment. And that's just terrible. So, but, we're back to 2015 as far as the markets go. So that sucks.
Are you still there? Did we lose you again? Hold on. See if we can. Are you back, Ryan?
Sorry about that. So I don't know what I was saying.
I don't know. I did have a point I was going to bring up. Oh, along the conspiracy theory line, this is less conspiracy, but do you think that the media is blowing this out of proportion in order to damage Trump? And even get us to freak out, cause worse of a problem than there really is, just to harm him?
100% unequivocally, yes. They are not doing anything to help, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that no matter what, they're definitely trying to hurt the president. The majority of them. Not all of them, but the majority of the leftist media is trying to harm our president. So, yeah, without a doubt. Now, does that mean that some of the shit they're saying is not right? No. I mean, there's some things that they're putting out that are absolutely right. But just to your point, what you're saying about the questions that he's being asked in press conferences, where these people are trying to trip him up, and and I mean, I don't turn on CNN. I have turned on Fox, but I can't stand to watch any of them. Honestly.
I can't either.
It's the same shit over and over and over again, and it's not worth our time or trouble at this point. You're better off reading news stories or listening to podcasts. You know. No, but I think, without a doubt, there's a large portion of the media that is not helping and definitely making a concerted effort to hurt the president of the United States and to create alarmism and all this can be well, not all of it, but the run on fucking toilet paper and all that shit. You can point the finger directly at the media.
Yeah,
I mean it's no different than the weatherman saying, "Oh my God, it's a blizzard." And then nothing happens the next day. It's like, well, you probably should have tempered that alarm a little bit, buddy, because you know that there's a chance that it's not going to be true. You know that there's a chance that the weather pattern is going to shift. And we know that there's a chance that this could be completely catastrophic and hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions, could die, right? Mm-hmm. We know that's a possibility. But there's also a possibility that 100,000 people could die, which is not good,
right?
But it's not as bad as what you would believe by the media standard. So just tempering your alarmism and your judgment and seeking more information, all those things that Americans just typically don't do. The majority of Americans don't do, myself included. You get satisfied. You get a nugget of information. You're like, oh, that makes sense, and you're just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna roll with that. And it's human nature. That it's like when you finally find that nugget that's like, oh, okay, that answers that question I had, that you don't seek any further. And I think that's kind of our problem. That's the problem with humans, is that we're not typically not inquisitive enough, and we don't want to go dig that one more shovel full of information to see what we might be missing.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how much I believe. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them, but that they would, hide certain statistics. I mean, the reason everybody is so concerned about this is that A, the death rate, and B, the rate of infection. So if it affects a lot of people, that's a problem. And if it kills a lot of those people, that's a problem. And that's why everybody's concerned. So, but what if the rate of infection wasn't as high as we think? Or what if the death rate wasn't as high as we think? Then we wouldn't all be freaking out.
Right.
So would they hide that from us in order to make us panic? I don't know.
Yeah, they're hiding it from us, but they're certainly not. We're not. There's a lot of information missing. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of data, in my opinion, that's missing. And now it might be out there on a website, and I just haven't found it. Mm-hmm. And I got to go get my shovel and dig a little deeper. But it certainly seems like we should be able to, at this point, have some metrics around the average age of victims, the average age of the deceased. We should be able to know, like, out of these hundreds of thousands of cases, how many of them were socially transmitted and how many of them were imported from China or Italy or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we should, at this point, I feel like we should be able to have these numbers. The fact that they're not blasted across the front page of the paper or the front page of the, whatever website you happen to look at, or Fox News or MSNBC or CNN, is astonishing. Why don't we have this information? It can't be that hard to fucking find. I think the New York Times, on their website, they had a story that kind of outlined state by state what they knew. But it was so vague. Like some of the cases, like California, for example, was like an Orange County individual over the age of 70 was found deceased. Like, how do we not even know their sex?
Right.
How do we? I mean, we have these records. Get a fucking clipboard.
Well, I think they don't want people to know because they don't want you to panic. If they said Jane Francis down the street on Market Street died, everybody around would be freaking out. So they don't want you to know exactly where this happened or who it was. Because
find the middle. Find the middle.
I agree. Yeah.
So if you can say, like, in Monroe County, a male age 45, contracted the virus, but is currently stable and recovering. A female age 72 contracted it and is now deceased. They got this. They got the virus. The 45-year-old got it because he just traveled to China. The woman got it through social transmission because she lives in a nursing home and someone was sick in a nursing home. Whatever it might be. These things I don't think are that evasive nuggets of truth. I mean, I think they're out there, but why are we not tracking it? I feel like, number one, either it's one of two things are going to happen. It's either going to cause alarm and people will be like, oh, fuck, this data is terrifying. Or it's going to put people's mind at ease. Like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. I should be cautiously, aware of these things. But also, how do I say? In the absence of information, then rumors and speculation tend to run rampant, right? And so it's this desert of information that we're existing in right now. Everybody just comes up with their own bullshit. Well, it's all everybody's a fucking doctor.
Yeah. I do think when it's all said and done, the numbers and the perception of those numbers are going to change a lot because we're hearing everyone that dies from this, we hear about it, right? You pretty much know when someone dies of this virus. You don't know all the people who have it, and it's not even getting reported because it wasn't even bad enough for them to go to the doctor. Now, I do think more and more, as this progresses, more and more people are going to start getting tested at the slightest little symptom because everybody's so worried right now. But I'm sure there was a lot of time where the average college kid who gets the sniffles or whatever, or maybe a fever, was like, whatever, I'm going to go partying tonight. I'm not going to the hospital. Right. And so I guarantee a lot of people had this and it came and went, and maybe they spread it, maybe they didn't, but it didn't get reported. And so I think those numbers should be a lot higher of people who have it, which makes the death rate a lot lower than it really is.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Now they've said apparently one of the symptoms that wasn't being talked about early on is intestinal issues, diarrhea, basically. And that's one of those things that, like, if you had diarrhea, but you thought coronavirus was a cough and a fever and, whatever, then you wouldn't even report that. You would take some, Imodium AD and go to bed.
Right.
Now, they're also saying that younger people are the ones showing this intestinal issue, and that people who have it tends to be pretty bad and they have to go to the hospital. So maybe you wouldn't just blow it off. But again, it's just one of those things that, like, that would never have been reported for the first month or two of this because nobody even said that was coronavirus. So I don't know. I think all these numbers are going to change. We're going to have a different opinion of all this in a month or two, or it's going to be infinitely worse, and we're all going to be freaking out. Everybody's going to be out of a job.
I feel like there's more conspiracy theories to come. Not from me. Not I don't create them. Maybe some of them are trumped up in my head, but I think that other people, again, in the absence of information, people they'll find some fucking logic or reason, but to come up with something crazy like that, and I don't know, they're entertaining at least.
Sure.
The upside of it is like, that's interesting to think about.
Now, you mentioned to me earlier today, and I did look at it a little bit, that you said something about the death rate, I guess, is worse in Louisiana than a lot of other places.
Not the death rate. I'm gonna fuck this up. I don't know. Okay. I don't know exactly how it was stated, but basically, I think it was the dean of students for Tulane University had this in her email, that the per capita infected, like confirmed cases, is greater, and again per capita, and is greater in Louisiana than it is in any other state in the union. Okay. So that just means that the percentage of residents of Louisiana is greater. So doesn't mean they have more cases. They're up to like 400 now, I think. Or at least this morning.
I'm looking at a map right now that's supposed to be current. Louisiana has 479, and they have 10 deaths. Now that's actually That is pretty high compared to California has 1,040 cases and 19 deaths. So more than double the cases, but not even double the deaths. And
right, and think about the population.
New York is at 7,100 cases and 35 deaths. So they're like way lower death rate than Louisiana. So that's interesting. Why Louisiana has a higher...
Well, the population in Louisiana is so clustered down in, well, it's either in New Orleans or Baton Rouge, really.
Yeah.
There's really not, I mean, there's a couple other little small towns or whatever, but for the most part, it's barren land. I mean, it's a, fucking swamp. But so there's obviously a smaller population, but also New Orleans is a hub for cruise ships. So a lot of cruise ships depart and return to New Orleans. So you got all these fucking people that go out on these cruises and they come back and their dirty asses are touching everything. And then you also had Mardi Gras, where you had all these people that descended on New Orleans at the end of or at the beginning of February. In the midst of all this shit from around the world, people come to New Orleans for Mardi Gras. And so, I mean, it makes sense to me that because of the timing and the location of the city, it just makes sense that they would be more at risk. And we're seeing a huge spike. So I want to say, what you said was 470 something like right now. Yep. So I'm pretty sure that this morning it was like 390, or maybe it was yesterday when I saw it was like 390. So that's 80 new cases. Yeah. I don't think there's any additional deaths. I think it was 10 yesterday when I saw it too, but that's a lot. I mean, so that's ratcheting up relatively quickly. And the same goes for Illinois. Illinois just keeps climbing through the through the roof too. I haven't looked at Missouri. I think Missouri, oddly enough, is still pretty. Yeah, there's
only 47 cases in Missouri. And
right, but not that long ago there was 4. So
that's true. That's true. I don't think, has there been one death in Missouri? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Let's see, Missouri. I don't know. They're way down the list. Anyway. Yeah, one death in Missouri. Now, is that just because Chicago is so big and has so many people and it's so concentrated? I mean, St. Louis isn't really.
Well, I think the bigger the city, the more concentrated the population, the faster the spread. I mean, that seems logical. So that's why we see it in New York and Chicago and California, LA and San Francisco, and arguably New Orleans. And, I would say that Memphis, St. Louis, I mean, Atlanta, there's a lot of cities that would fall into. So it's just a matter of time. I think that's kind of the point that I was reluctant to accept, that it's just a matter of time before it just blows up. And the map that we see in movies that shows the spread of some infectious disease just blowing up and blossoming across the country, that becomes a reality. I think we're there. The question is that we can't get wrapped up in that everything turning red. We have to look a little bit closer. Like, how many of these are confirmed cases, but how many of them are serious?
Right.
And how many people are recovering? And are we flattening the curve, if you will? Right.
So I still want to see a map that shows influenza cases with all of this, because I guarantee, I mean, what did we say? There's like, I can't remember now, but it's way, way, way more people get the flu. And now, again, the death rate of the flu is smaller. We have ways of treating that now. The death rate of coronavirus is going to be smaller once we have antiviral drugs and vaccinations and stuff. But like, I think if you just put the influenza numbers up on a map like this, people would be freaking out. What are you're telling me tens of thousands of people are dying of the flu? And it's like, there's only like 200 people in the U.S. dying of this.
Map, or not a map, it was a chart or like infographic and it was basically, I think it was per annum, per year, how many people die from different diseases or events. So like, it listed everything. It listed like, polio, and it listed, so if it was an endemic or a pandemic, the math was pretty solid. Like, so for SARS, for example, the outbreak lasted X amount of months. They took the total amount of deaths and they divided it by the number of months and then multiplied by 12. So that's how they came up with the per annum number, right? So, and they showed like the potential for this is about middle of the pack. Some of the ones that are up at the top of the charts, people don't even think about, like smallpox and things like that, which we know is gone. But people don't get alarmed about these things. And then there's things that are still happening today, like automobile accidents, firearms not accidents, but people being shot, that are, not not mass shootings, just people shooting other fucking people.
Yeah.
That these things are much greater, if we look at them on an annual basis compared to what it is right now. That maybe not greater. The gunshot thing, I don't know. I don't think that's that much, but no, auto accidents, just regular pneumonia, people just getting the common cold and then catching pneumonia. There's huge numbers behind this that nobody talks about. And so maybe this will start the conversation to start to look at some of these other things. Like, why are, we get alarmed about these things. Why are we alarmed about these other things? What? Furthermore, maybe it's because the media causes this kind of thing. That's typically what drives the conversation.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right. Well, I don't know. What do you think? We're an hour into this.
Really? Wow. All right. That was fun. I don't know what else I got to offer. I got to call a couple people back, it looks like, so they're not worried. I mean, they all got me low, Jack. They should be able to see me on a map and see that I'm still moving. So unless I've been kidnapped and I'm in someone's trunk, they know that I'm okay. And I'm just ignoring their call for this point. But I don't know what else I had to offer. If you want to do another one later today, I'll be driving back. I'll be northbound, and I'll have dumb shit TJ with me, and we can rip it. That's
that might be
causing this. Yeah, he might hate it. But hopefully he can be respectful to his elders, because that's one of the lessons that he's going to learn 10 hours on the ride home.
Uh-huh.
Learn how to talk right to people. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah. It's going to be fun for me. It's not going to be fun for him. So. No. Anywho.
Well, I appreciate you setting this up. This was your idea to kind of do a remote podcast on the road. I think it's going to be kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, even like down the road, let's say if we wanted to get together and let's say I'm on the road or something like that, or even if I can't get over to your house or whatever, hook a microphone up to a computer and a USB mic. And I think, Skype's pretty cool. So we'll see how it sounds in the end, what the end product looks like. I'm sure that your engineering magic tricks will do it justice, and
hopefully
see what can happen. Maybe we can start looping in other people.
Well, I'll keep you on the line here for just a minute when we're done, but let's wrap this one up. We want to thank everybody for listening and subscribing and downloading. I know we've been doing a lot of coronavirus lately, but
it's hard to.
Yeah, it's kind of on everybody's minds, and I hope we're saying stuff that you want to hear, or at least giving you information that's ever changing, it seems like.
Oh, dude, I forgot to tell you something. I got a dealer for toilet paper. Did I tell you about that?
For what? Oh, toilet paper. No, what do you got?
Well, I can't tell you everything, but so I know a guy that knows a guy that works at Walmart, and so I made a couple phone calls. I'm like, hey, man, see when the next shipment's coming in, and we tried to time it so that we'd be up there to snag some. It wasn't working out. So my guy told the other guy, like, hey, man, if you can get some, great. So he did. Delivered it to my house. I paid him like an $8 premium on it, but completely worth it. And I'm like, dude, you're missing out on a complete, money grab. Now, not to, don't do what the guys with the hand sanitizer did. They got fucked over in New York. But, find a reasonable upcharge for your toilet paper acquisition and delivery service. And man, you got something here, at least through the next 8 weeks or so, probably.
Now, what he should do, the honorable thing would be delivering that to old people and crippled people and whatever, and like, here you go.
Nah, most of them don't have a normal shit schedule anyway.
They shit themselves anyway. It's fine. Depends.
But delivered depends of those people. And then, and also the alarmism on the toilet paper thing. We talked about the dirty socks, which funny, my sister sent me like a cartoon about the dirty sock, or the lost sock, the single lost sock thing. Apparently, I'm not the only weirdo that had that same thought. Someone made a fucking cartoon about it, like a meme or whatever. So, look at that. I'm not as crazy as I think. But also, I mean, get in the fucking shower. If the worst comes to worst, everybody's home. If you run out of toilet paper, I mean, it's gross. It's not the ideal situation, but fucking hop in the shower. Just clean yourself off. Come on, people. We're not being reasonable here. For fucking thousands of years, we lived without toilet paper and indoor plumbing. Just for the last 150 years, we've actually had these luxuries. Maybe not even 150, less than that. And everybody's acting like, oh my God, what do I do? It's like, you know what? Go back in time and talk to your ancestors that lived in the Old West when they had to shit in an outhouse, and there was no fucking toilet paper. They went about their business, and they were disgusting. But
just
arguably,
go to India, see what they do.
Right?
Squat on the side of the road and use their hand.
Yeah, it's fucking wrong, man.
It is wrong. So that's why nobody wants to be India.
Yeah, but then again, they're not having a toilet paper crisis right now.
True. They're all like, yeah, we're good. We're set.
Right.
All right. Well, once again, thanks for listening and subscribing and all that. We appreciate it. I'll probably post this one pretty soon. We don't necessarily need to wait till next time. This is kind of a bonus on the fly episode, and it's relevant to today, so we might as well.
Yeah, tell us what you think. The whole Load This Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and loadthispodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. Yep, and YouTube and all your favorite podcast app. So, yeah. Okay, well, until next time, I'm Jared.
And I'm Ryan.
And get a load of this.
I might.
Describe it. Was this one of those you got to go get the key from the guy, and then, or was this like a normal bathroom inside? Was it outside?
It's normal. It was a shitter and a urinal and a sink. Very very close quarters. Also had that smell, that distinctive public bathroom at a gas station smell. And just didn't, so we just talked about washing your hands. Well, let me put it this way. I did not wash my hands in there because I was afraid of touching anything else. I also didn't flush. I only touched myself. And,
Dude, and I got out. You're that guy. You go into a bathroom and not wash your hands? Come on.
But I got to my truck and I immediately, sanitized up. Yeah. I hand sanitizer here, so I immediately fucking lathered up on that shit, and I even put it on my elbow because that's what I used to open the door.
Yep.
Just because I'm like, I'm not fucking touching anything. It was touch and go, man.
You know what I don't have in front of me right now?
What's that?
Beer.
Well, me neither. So this could be.
That's true.
Well, no, we've done sober. Get a load of this.
I guess if you have to, I have to. I'll bite the bullet.
You can feel free to drink for me, but I don't. I think that the Mississippi State Highway Patrol might frown on me.
Right. I would advise you not to do that. Drink on this particular podcast. Actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to pause this and go get a couple beers and then come right back. Can you just hang out on the phone?
Yeah, I'll be here.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay, I'm back.
All right.
So
this is a good test for you too, because now I'm moving. I'm doing about 50 miles an hour. There's a little bit of road noise here, so you're probably gonna hear some shit.
It sounds pretty good, I gotta say.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, man. Technology's goddamn amazing.
Right? Who knew we can broadcast remotely?
Yeah, I really never need to see your face again. We
should do this every time. Keep us from truly fighting each other.
Well, yeah, and in light of social distancing and all that bullshit, it's not bullshit though.
No.
I've listened to I don't know how many hours I've been driving, but basically podcast the whole fucking time, 7 hours now.
Yep.
And the latest one I listened to was Dave Rubin, and I don't know who he's interviewing, I forget the guy's name, but it was pretty good. The guy basically, I don't know if he's a doctor or what, but he had a tweet thread or Twitter thread or whatever the fuck you call it on I guess a while back, actually a month ago or so, and about what we should be doing and look at what China's doing and kind of warning everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really good, but he was also, it wasn't all gloom and doom. He was like, look, this could go very well. We were a little late doing some things, but we're doing the right things now, and compared to the 1918 and the 1957 pandemics, this is how this compares. It was pretty interesting. So, but it, I don't know. It also puts more doubt in my head about our response.
Right.
I think social distancing is a good idea. I think that if at all possible, you should stay home and maybe certain restaurants and places should close or not a lot of people get too close together. But the things that we're doing that are just so detrimental to the economy. I don't know how to balance it all to make it still work for to make the economy still work.
Yeah.
But that's what bothers me is that I wonder if we're overreacting, and it's because the media has kind of hyped it. Not that it's not a big deal, but the media kind of pushed it a little bit further. That maybe we're overreacting just a little bit, and that's causing bad shit. I don't know what the market's doing today, but you can look at that. Just go to Google and type DJIA and see what's going on.
Well, let's start this episode because there's plenty to talk about. And let's see how it goes.
All right.
All right.